Hey, this is Step Amit. Welcome to my Exorcism.io series. In this video, I'll be working through the difference of squares exercise from the Ruby track. So in this exercise, we need to find the difference between the square of the sum and the sum of the squares of the first n natural numbers. So for instance, if we are given 10, we need to find the square of the sum of the first 10. So we sum 1 through 10 and then square the total. Okay, we get the square of the sum. And then the sum of the squares, it's going to be those same numbers, but we're going to square each one and then sum those resulting squares. And then we need to take the difference. We need to subtract the sum of the squares from the square of the sum. And then we're going to get this number. So the difference of squares. Okay, cool. Let's get started. I think I'm in the wrong. Nope. Start a new TMUX session. Okay, so let's open up the test file. And so what we have here is a squares class that we initialize with a number. We can ask, and then we can ask for the square of the sum of the squares, and the difference. Okay, so that's 3 public methods we're going to have that we're going to need here in our interface. So let me go ahead and get the rake file in here that I need to run my tests and just try that out. Okay, cool. So as you can see here, the test failed because this file, differenceofsquares.rb, does not exist. So let's create it. I'll swap my panes here so that my actual class under test is on the left and my tests are on the right. I'm going to let the test guide me as always, and this is going to fail because we haven't initialized, or we haven't created a squares class. So let's go ahead and do that. Initialize constant. So class squares, which will now fail because of the arity of the initialize method. We need so we get wrong number of arguments. We need to accept a number here. So let's do so. Initialize, taking a number that we're going to test, and now it's going to fail because we don't have a method square of sum defined. Tell you what, I know I'm going to need this. Let's go ahead and create an adder reader for our number and capture number. And then what we can do now is go ahead and define our square of sum method. This is going to fail because we're returning nil. And what we need to return for the first example is 1. So let's just go ahead and do that. All right, now I'm going to uncomment or unskip this this next test where we're giving it, initializing it with 5, and square of sum should be 255. And so we're returning 1 here. So what we actually need to do is do the work here. The square of the sum. So in this case, we're going to sum the numbers and we're going to square them. So what we need to do is we need to start at 1 and we need to go up to the number we've been given. And so we can do this by giving it a range, 0 to number. And if I recall correctly, we can simply sum that and then square it. If this doesn't work, we can always convert our range to an array, but let's just try this. Yeah, okay, cool. That works. So I'm guessing that all of these square of sum tests are just going to work now. They should. I don't see why they wouldn't. Okay, this is now sum of squares. So let me back up real quick and just look at this again. So remember what we've done. This range, a range gives us every integer from the beginning to the end here. So it starts with 1, gives us, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, all the way up to the top. 1 to 1, it's just an array. It's just a range of 1. And sum literally will just do exactly what it says. It'll sum them and then square them. All right, so cool. Now we need to move on to the sum of squares method, which we have not implemented. Let's see if we can get away with just turning 1. Oh, that worked. Awesome. But it's not going to work here, because the sum of squares of 5 will actually be 155. So what can we do here? Well, we've got the same thing, right? We need our same range from 1 up to the number. And what we need, though, is an array of, we need to convert each of those numbers inside of that. We need to square them, right? So we need to convert it to an array. I can't remember off the top of my head if range implements map directly, but I'm just going to give it a shot, because this is what I want to do, right? I want to map over each number. Let's call them digits, each digit. And I want to square each digit. And then take the sum of those. This may not work, but again, if not, we can just convert it to an array before doing this. I think it's going to work. All right, cool. That works. So sum of squares should work. All right, and then now we have difference of squares. This is now going to fail because we have not implemented difference. So, yep, undefined method difference. So let's go ahead and define that method. And here we need it to return a 0. But now we need it to return 170. We're returning 0. So what we need to do is actually take the difference. And so we want to take, what is it? The square of the sum minus the sum of the squares. Okay. So the square of sum minus sum of squares. Whoops. All right. There we go. These are all gonna work now. That's exactly what it is. Okay, cool. Our code is working now. This isn't bad, but we can actually clean this up a little bit. As you can see here, we've got some duplication between here and here. And I really feel like sum of squares might be doing too much. Let's go ahead and pull this out and call this, what do you say, digits? Yep. So again, square of sum has no business knowing how we get the digits, right? We just want the digits and we want to sum them. So digits, the way that and here's what I mean by that. I chose to get these digits by creating a range starting at 1 and going up to the number that we were passed. But that's not the only way you could determine this. And so what I mean is that this decision of how we do this versus, any other number of ways that we could have come up with that range or that array-like list of digits, the square of sum method has no business knowing how that's done. It shouldn't care about that, right? It has one job. It should take the sum of those digits and square that sum. So same with sum of squares. We can change this as well to digits.map, because sum of squares also, it shouldn't care at all. And in fact, right now, I feel like this might be doing too many things, because it's raising the digits, right? It's squaring them. So it's coming up with a second list of digits and is taking the sum of them. So let's split this out into its own method as well. I'm going to call this raised digits, so that I know these are the digits after they've been squared. Or how about that? Maybe squared digits. Yeah, I like that better. squared digits. So we need to actually define that. Cool. That works. So now let me read these two guys. Some square of sum is digits.sum squared. Cool. Sum of squares is squared underscore digits dot sum. You know, I wonder, can you do this? Is that a thing on integer? No, it's not. Okay. Ruby sometimes does crazy stuff like that. It actually might be in Rails. I wouldn't be surprised if it's been patched with that in Rails. But either way, these two methods from our API they read pretty cleanly. I get what they are. Difference is pretty clear too. I mean, it's the square of the sum minus the sum of squares. And I think I'm actually going to take these two methods here, these helper methods that I created, and make them private. Let's do that. All right. And that's done. That's pretty clean. Let's go ahead and submit it. All right. That's it. I'll see you in the next exercise.